musical in our concert is Onward, Victoria. Oh yeah! Applause for Onward,
Some
Victoria!
fans of Onward, Victoria.
Yeah. Awesome. If Brownstone was about ordinary topics, Onward, Victoria is about anything but.
Onward, Victoria was a musical based on the real-life Victoria Woodhull, who moved to New York in the 1870s, and within 2 years she became a millionaire as a stockbroker, a famous advocate for free love and equality of the sexes, and was the first woman to run for president.
All true. Isn't that awesome? So cool. The show chronicled the exploits of Victoria and her sister as independent heroines taking New York by storm. I identify with that. The writers also decided to add in an affair that Victoria had with the Reverend Henry Beecher, and that part of the show was entirely fictional, so mixing fact and fiction a little bit. Interesting.
The show opened on December 14th, 1980, and closed on opening night.
Closed on opening night.
That's why we're here. So are you surprised? It ran for 10 years, no.
The next show is Rent. Okay. Critics were outraged about Onward, Victoria. They were actually really angry in all of their reviews, and most notably about the lyrics, which they all just took huge offense with. You'll see, it's an interesting thing later. And they took a lot of liberties with history. They were mixing fact and fiction, as we said. Reverend Beecher was put on trial for his affair with Victoria, and when she took to the stand to defend him, she's saying, "I must defend Henry Beecher from a public that's misled. How can you possibly try a man just because he's good in bed?" So they were offended, and it's an interesting show. The score is actually amazing.
Awesome.
So it's weird and awesome. You should listen to it.
She also goes on to praise the Reverend's divine uplift and say that the congregation should be proud to have a preacher so well endowed. Risque. Critics agreed it was a fantastic subject for a musical, but they were astounded at lyrics that would rhyme Oedipus Rex with perverted sex.
The New Yorker was peeved that the historical figures spoke with modern airs, using words like screwed and phony. When I was reading about this, I kept thinking immediately of a show from this season that was praised for doing all of these things. Of course, Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson. Just really weird. That should have been a picture of Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson to punctuate that point, but it's not. Okay, moving on. That way, Onward, Victoria used these anachronisms to comment on the sensationalism of sex in America, was misunderstood and definitely underappreciated.
The New Yorker also complained about how the authors fell victim to Doctorow syndrome, which consists of a wanton mingling of fact and fiction. Kind of like Ragtime did a few years later.
Critics are very fickle.
The timing, they are.
It's interesting.
Fickle fannies, those critics.
Something about the way that Onward, Victoria did these things somehow just rubbed critics in the wrong way, sealing the show's fate, and it sadly closed on opening night. The role of Victoria was played by Jill Eikenberry, who was very much praised for her presence and beauty as a woman aiming to change the world. Now here to speak about Onward, Victoria and sing her big number from the show is Jill Eikenberry.
Guys, it's amazing. That was 1980, and I still look exactly the same. Wow. How did I do that? Well, it was unbelievably depressing to have the show close because, you know, how even if there's so many things wrong with it, by opening night you just believe, and we believed, and it was really depressing when it closed. But the good news is that 31 years later, the poster is still up in Joe Allen's, and I can go sit under my picture, and I just, incredible. So Changes, in the song I'm going to sing, is from a time when, so Victoria and her sister Tenny, came to town, having been fortune tellers in the Carney circuit, and convinced Cornelius Vanderbilt to set them up on Wall Street, because same thing, right? Fortune telling. And exactly the same. And then they started putting out a weekly newspaper where they were sort of airing their views about free love and stuff. And Henry Ward Beecher, the most famous man in New York, really took great umbrage. This is all actually true. And he started criticizing them from the pulpit and calling Victoria the whore of Wall Street and stuff. Meanwhile, Victoria found out that Henry Ward Beecher was having affairs all over the place, and actually started publishing things about the affairs in her newspaper. And so this song is, This song is when she's sort of singing to the pillars of the community about how they're, persecuting her for her beliefs, for her belief in free love, and they're all practicing it in private and in secret. Okay? I've seen the misery, frustrated lives in this town where hypocrisy thrives. I've seen dishonesty, I've sifted through lies, and I intend to speak and write and open up your eyes. So here I stand, nothing you do can frighten me, I'll stir this land. Give me a chance to tell you what I see. I know exactly how your foolish game is played. I'll strip the mask away from your sad masquerade. I'll make this town it cries for changes. I'll shake this town until it changes. I'll make a lot of changes in this town. I've wondered all my life, wrestled my fears, learned to speak through the taunts and the jeers. I've had a vision, and I've had a sign. I've woven all the strands of them into one grand design. Hear what I say, why don't we put aside the past and break away out of the ancient molds where we've been cast? I look into the future and I clearly see doors that won't unlock with last year's rusty key. I'll make this town it cries for changes. I'll take this town until it changes. I'll make a lot of changes in this town. I'll make a lot of changes in this town.
I almost just died. Which is actually a line in the script because I thought that's how I would feel, and I did. So
It was
I
true.
wrote that in this. That's
I
silly.
almost just died too, but since it was in the script, I
I
wasn't
know.
allowed to say it.
I tend to write the improv into the script, and then Kevin's like, "Stop putting the improv in the script." So,
And I tend to improv the improv.
Jill Eikenberry, I have been listening. I've been listening to that. I've been listening to that Onward Victoria cast album for years and years, and it was just like magical to hear her sing that. It was amazing.
Claps in the back. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jill. That was amazing.
Everybody go to Jill Allen's and think about Jill.
Yes. Onward Victoria initially started off Broadway, and at the time, the show was called Unescorted Women.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
There's a picture of unescorted women on the screen happening.
We're gonna fix this later. Indeed, Unescorted Women was the big first act closer, where Victoria and her sister Tenny tried to go to the famous New York restaurant Delmonico's, and Charlie Delmonico himself greeted them.
Here to sing Unescorted Women, Jordan Stanley.
Woo!
Dinner, Mrs. Woodhull? Why, surely you know you must have a gentleman with you.
But we're famished, Mr. Delmonico. We're regular customers, aren't we? You'll make an exception for us, won't you, Charlie?
Mrs. Woodhill, I'm astonished you propose such an extraordinary plan. You are two of my best customers, but I cannot seat you here without a man. Delmonico's has always been a place where tired businessmen can shed their cares, relax away from their affair.
You can't be serious.
If I let you in, I'd soon be forced to let in other women, and I fear kind of women who would come here for a meal and not a meal. So practically speaking, it's impossible for me. Why don't we talk about, we'll sort it out, but just not here. I don't sit unescorted women, I won't permit unescorted women, not even if she's someone who is as charming as you. See, it's a rule, more or less unspoken, but a rule up to now unbroken. A rule I ask you as a friend, not to ask a stupid. I don't want to intimidate, insult you or discriminate. Why, some of my best friends, some of my dearest friends are women, but not in here. It's their unescorted that I fear cannot be supported. I couldn't show my face in town if I let you sit down.
I brought you a man, Charlie. Mr. Delmonico, here's our escort, our excellent coachman.
Would you mind dusting him off, please? Jacques, Pierre,
We.
kindly show these ladies our table for 3.